As I was coming down, I was thinking, what happens if I say nothing? If I say silent? What would happen then? It was very interesting because as I was thinking this, it brought to a memory. Several years back, a group of our younger monks got together, and every single morning, if I remember correctly, we had almost a small sermon, or very, very small sermon, and a guided meditation by Amada Sanayakathira. And I remember one day, very distinctly, right? Distinctively, one day, we were all there, ready, sat down, waiting, and we readied a chair, and next to the chair we had a cup of water, waiting. If I remember correctly, the program started around 7. So we were all ready by 6:50. 6:50 became 6:55, and 7, 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, 7:30. And he had told us if he's late, just to sit down and contemplate. By 7:30, we got worried. Because why? Where is he? He said he'll come today, but where is he? But we're told to sit down and keep contemplating. 7:30 became 7:45, became 8, an hour late. 8 became 8:15. And then we hear a voice in the back saying, you see, this is what's going to happen in the future. And we look back and we see Amada Sanayakathira just standing there. He's been there for the last hour, but we were all concentrating, focusing on our meditation. And he said, this is what's going to happen. There will be a day, whether we like it or not, where the seat will be empty. And then what? Attahiyatanonato. Then it's only ourselves who can save ourselves. I mean, there will be a day where this will appear, where there'll be no one here, and then it's only ourselves. It is such a, very worrying thought, because if our teachers are not there, then who? Then what? Then what are we going to do? And again, it brought me back memories of, hearing stories about when the Buddha was lying under the 2 sal trees. And everyone around there knew that in a couple hours, that the Buddha will pass into Parinibbana. He will no longer be alive. What were they thinking? What do you think were going through the minds of these monks, Anagarikas, devotees, all those who were surrounding? Because throughout our entire journey in samsara, we've heard silence the most. Silence of what? Silence of the Buddha, silence of the Dhamma, and silence of the Sangha. It is incredibly rare to be able to hear the symphony that the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the Noble Triple Gem had played. But in the end, there will again be silence. Now you could say, well, we don't need to worry about it because, another 2,500 years left of the Buddha Sasana, right? We have another 2,500 years. That's more than my lifetime. Exactly. It is more than your lifetime. How long do we have left? Who knows? How long this all is there? Our teachers, how long are they going to be here? It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. One day, so yesterday I was talking to one of our monks, and he was telling me that just that morning he found his mother had called and said that, your father just had a heart attack. Now, he was fine, but he was telling me it came out of nowhere. All that happened was his father had a chest pain, and luckily, I think either the mother or the daughter had the idea that we must bring him to a hospital. Takes him to the hospital. As he was laid on the beds, the heart stopped. Lucky for him, he was in a hospital surrounded by very educated and very experienced doctors and nurses, and so therefore he was revived. But then he was telling me, well, if that can happen to my father, what happens if it happens to our teachers? What, it's not going to happen? Our body is the most fragile, one of the most fragile things. It takes millions of things to keep it going, but it takes the removal of one to stop. So the sound of silence. When will we be hearing it again? Either when this heart stops, no longer. No longer will we be able to hear the symphony that the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha plays. And we're left all by ourselves to fend for ourselves. Throughout the journey in samsara, this has been the case. So I want you to really realize how lucky and fortunate we are to be able to hear the symphony. And to remind ourselves how fortunate we are to be able to be in an area, in a place, in an environment where we follow exactly what the symphony, or we play along with the symphony, making it louder, making it cleaner, making it spread far and wide. With that, let's take a few moments to chant Namaskara 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I don't want to make this depressing at all, right? I don't want this to be, oh no, we're all gonna die. Oh no, our teachers are all gonna pass away. Oh no, what's gonna happen to? I don't want this to be a depressing thought. But what I do want is to place this seed into your minds. Yes, it's a very, very hard thought to process, right? Because we know, because it's something that we do instinctively. Things that we find very hard and difficult to comprehend, we put it to a side. So if we asked every single person in this entire world, will you die? They'll say, yeah. I will. But the next moment, they push it away thinking, you know what, I'm not. Because when we get a thought or something that we find to be, like we can't imagine or we can't feel it, we push it to a side and pretend it's not there. And that is what happens. And therefore, like, when we talk about these things, a lot of people will say, "Well, this is too deep. This is too sad. Like, can we talk about something else? Can we talk about unicorns and rainbows and how amazing this world is?" But unfortunately, there. So as I was coming down, this is what I was thinking as well. So, what happens if I sat here in silence? If I didn't say a single word? So we sat here for the next 2 hours in silence, and then we give a merit transfer to the Devas and Brahmas and our past relatives and ancestors, and we leave. What happens if that happens? Is that not a sermon in itself? What happens if next week I go and sit down at the back and we leave this chair empty? Then you can have a sermon by an empty chair. Is that not a sermon? It is. This is a sermon in itself. A chair itself is a sermon. Do you see how very fortunate we are to be surrounded by, this environment where we're able to, no matter the situation, find a way to get rid of our defilements. No matter what, we find a way to get rid of our attachments, to get rid of our ignorance. We are so fortunate. So, in the event of an emergency where there is no one here, what should you do? Practice the path. Look at the empty chair and think and contemplate. See, you look at an empty chair and what's the first thing that you should come to your head? Why is it empty? Why is it empty? Because of what? Was there someone there in the first place? Then you can ask yourself, then who is a teacher? Then you can remind yourself, wait, if not who is a teacher, then what is a teacher? See, every single empty chair. These are what? Things that we can contemplate about. Because, and again, I don't want to make this a very depressing. So we're going to move on. Don't worry. We're not going to talk about death for long. But I really do want you to think about this, because what we don't understand is how valuable. They say that we only fully understand how valuable something is when we no longer have it. For example, those of you who've lost a loved one, you understand how much this loved one has done for you and how much you love this loved one. When they're no longer with you, whether they've passed away or whether they've separated, gone far away, then do you realize, this is someone that I loved. Where are they now? They say, the only time that we miss light is when it's dark. The only time we miss the sun is when? Or very sunny days is when? When it's cold and miserable, when it's snowing outside, then we think, where's the sun now? Or you only miss home when you're on the road. We only miss things when it's no longer there. So so to actually understand the value of something, we have to imagine what life would be without it. For example, the value of dhamma. How do you measure the value of dhamma? Now we can say, okay, the dhamma is infinite, right? The value of the dhamma is infinite. It can't be given a price. It can't be given a value. However, the value of dhamma will vary from person to person, will it not? For example, if you ask Guru Handru, the value of Dhamma. How valuable is the Dhamma for you? And then we asked, say, someone who just started the journey, what is the value of Dhamma for you? They will have worlds of a difference. Guru Hamdru would say, well, they'll say the same thing. The Dhamma is very valuable, extremely valuable. But in their minds, they think what? They have two different sets. Because why? Guru Hamdru knows the life he used to have without Dhamma, compared to now, the amount of change that the Dhamma has done means that it's invaluable. Means that it's priceless. For someone who just started, again, the small changes, they'll realize, okay, this small change happened due to the Dhamma. Therefore, it's invaluable. Therefore, it's priceless. Again, because they're thinking about what happens if it's not there. The lack or the removal of it, how would it affect my life? If it's a big effect, it's valuable. So that's the thing. How valuable are your teachers? To find out, either we have to get rid of them physically, or get rid of them mentally. What would life be without the Dhamma? What would life be without the Buddha Dhamma Sangha? What would life be without our teachers? How different our life would be. And to actually understand the value of your human life, what would life be? How valuable is life? Can only be compared is when it's no longer there, when we no longer have our human life, the life we're living right now. What is it going to be like now? How great is life now? Because if we were to conclude and say, everyone, the average human life is 80 years old. And out of the 80 years, so many years have gone. Now, out of the years we have left, if we assume we sleep, say 6 to 8 hours, so if we take 8 hours, because I think medically you're supposed to take on average 8 hours, that's, what is 24 divided by 8? 24 divided by 8? Which means a third of the time that you have left is spent asleep. So if we do the maths, right? If we assume that 80 years is how many years on average a human has. And if we take the average age of, let's get a good number. I think demographically, the mean age of people who listen to sermons is around like 30 to 40. That's the normal range. So for argument's sake, we'll say 40. Right? This is a maths lesson. Ready? Maths lesson. This is the maths of life. Right? Which means you have 40 years left. If we spend 8 hours asleep, which means it's 40 divided by 3. Which means you only have 13 years left. Now, I was talking to some children the other day, and they're telling me, my mother's telling me to stop using social media, to stop using TikTok and all these weird and wonderful things, and I stop using this. But I only use it for 5 minutes a day. So I remember asking her, saying, okay, if you spend only 5 minutes a day, right, and it's not a long time, 5 minutes is not a long time. How many hours do you think you use in a year? So it's 5 days times 365. And I think we got, if I can't remember correctly, but almost 30 hours. If you spend 5 minutes every single day, by the end of the year, you will spend 30 hours of doing something, doing that thing. So she spent 30 hours doing what? Scrolling. That's a day and a bit. So we only have, actually, let's change this a bit. This is how many years we spent sleeping. So that's, we only have 27 years of life left. 27 years of life left. Now let's not forget, in this 27 years, there'll be things where towards the end of the 80 years, what will happen? Well, what normally happens towards the end of the 80 years? We become sick, bedridden. Then we have things like diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, and all of these things. And even in this 80 years, if you think about it, we don't have the full 80 years to do what we want. Out of the 80 years, pretty much you can say the last 5-10 years we had to put away. Because those are the years that we're bedridden. Those are the years that we're in bed and we can't really think, we can't hear, we can't see. Think about it, if we lose our sense of sight and sound. So even this 27 years. 20 years? 20 years of life left. Now, if we started by thinking about the 40 years spent, you only have 20 years left. Now, if I asked you, if I asked a child, how long is 5-10 years? How long is 10 years? Now, a child would say, well, if I'm 10 and I'm talking about 10 years, 10 years is a long time. It's a lifetime. But if I ask someone who is 40, how long is 10 years? Not long enough. Not long enough. Then what's 20 years? Not enough. You see, our time is ticking. Our time is ticking every single second. Like if we stand very still, you would be able to hear a massive tsunami coming. Can you hear it? Okay, we're gonna stay silent. Let's see if we can hear a tsunami. Ready? Can you hear a tsunami? Can you hear a tsunami? Like a massive tsunami coming our way. Actually, if you can't hear it, well, there's an issue here. Because there are 3 tsunamis coming our way. If we are here, does a tsunami come from here, here, and here? What are these 3 tsunamis? What are these 3 tsunamis? And every single time it's coming closer. Sometimes you'll feel the water hit you. So I was talking to, I got to, for some reason this week, when I was talking to some of our monks, they were telling me about the tsunami that we had in Sri Lanka. So if I'm correct, back in 2004, isn't it? Back in 2004, we had in Sri Lanka a major tsunami. Many people's lives were lost, homes, places, right? And you get to hear these amazing stories of how people survived. They missed a train and therefore they survived. They missed the bus and therefore they survived. It's crazy. So, and then they're saying that, it was a horrible time to be alive, when that you wake up one day and you hear on the news that a massive wave struck and many people's lives are lost. And then I realized there is no singular word for tsunami. Is that? What is the singular word for tsunami? It is also what? Tsunami. Because if I remember correctly, that was one tsunami that we've had in many, many years. Like many centuries. So it had catastrophic effects. But if you stay silent enough, you'll hear 3 tsunamis coming at you. Sometimes you'll feel the hit of water, but very lightly. What are these 3 tsunamis? One of them is big. One of them is so big that when the tsunami comes, it's over. One of them is more, it's a silent killer. Meaning it will slowly increase to a point where you don't realize. It's only when the water is so high that you realize, oh, there's something wrong here. But the last one is the most unpredictable one. It will come and it will go. And it will come again and then it will go. Sometimes creating massive effects, sometimes no effect whatsoever. What are these 3 tsunamis? Technically, they're caused by that, but that's not the tsunamis I'm talking about. What are these 3 tsunamis? We don't really talk about this. I don't think this is a very common topic, talking about these 3 things. Right? But these 3 things, every now and then, we have to remember. We have to remember these 3. But it's not common. I don't think I've heard about this in a while. Now the one that's very gradual, the one that takes a lot of time, right? It's almost as if, when the tsunami comes, it just starts off very slow, right? You just get like waves at the ankle. As time goes on, it's waves at the hip. As time goes on, it's waved at neck level. When it comes to neck level, do you realize, oh, there's an issue here? What wave is that? Well, it's not really age in itself, but it is the actual, the weakening of the body. Because as we grow older, not as we grow older, but as time goes on, the body becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. There's no one who can say, as they grow older, they're becoming more healthy. I remember learning in school that age is something that's encoded in our DNA. Our DNA that keeps that has the genetic formula for us to be alive. Inside that, there are codes that are used for you to age. That's why some scientists think if we get rid of these codes, we will no longer age. That's what they think. But unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen, is it? That's one. Now the other tsunami that comes It's something that attacks very slowly. Will come and go. And will come again and then go. Sometimes it will, do massive damage. Sometimes the damage is so benign, so small that you just forget about it. What tsunami is that? But last but not least, the biggest of them all, the father of tsunamis, the mass destructor. This is a tsunami that hit Sri Lanka. No, this is one of the biggest tsunamis. What tsunami is that? There's something else. There's something else that is beneath all of this. It is something that creates a sort of, you can call it a foundation almost, that every moment that this is what creates the platform for this person to be hit by these three things. What is that? Not life. Close, not life. Now this word you know very well, because we talk about this every single time. Well, what is that? I'll give you a clue. It starts with a J. Jati. This is your life. You're in the middle. There are three tsunamis around you, and you're standing on a that's not grass, that's spikes. You're standing on spikes. Three tsunamis are there, every single moment, coming closer and closer, whether you like it or not. Each of these tsunamis are coming close. The death tsunami, you won't even be able to hear it. Unless you're so quiet, you won't be able to hear that tsunami. Because why? It will come when you least expect it. There are... You can't ever imagine when these tsunamis will hit. You can hear the roar. You can hear the roar. If you're quiet, you can hear the roar. However, you can't escape. No matter where you run, no matter where you hide, no matter what planet you go on, whether you're on Earth or whether they send you all to Mars, no matter where you are, these three tsunamis will always be there. They are only there until what? Until when? Until when? When will these tsunamis stop? When do these tsunamis stop? When the platform of jati is no longer there. The moment the platform of jati is no longer, when we remove the platform of jati, all of these, it's almost like this, we've all heard that, the Buddha, or the Aztec Gautama, when he was sitting under the bo tree, Mara comes in, right? The Deva Mara comes in and says, this is my seat. And what he does is he sends arrows, fireballs, and everything towards the Buddha, the ascetic Gautama. But no matter what he throws, when it comes to the Buddha, what happens? You've all seen the cartoons, right? They become flowers and nice things due to his paramita. It's like this. The moment that the floor of jati disappears or it's eradicated, the 3 tsunamis that come to attack will also what? Disappear. No longer affect. Because why? Why do we feel old age? How do we feel old age? We feel old age because of what? Today you go and you look in the mirror and you say, oh, this is who I am. This is me. And you open an album and you look in the folders and you think, oh, wait, this is also what? This is also what? This is also me. I was this, now I'm this. Oh no, I have become older. Or, I used to be able to walk anywhere I wanted. Now when I start walking 2-3 kilometers, I'm now, panting and breathing and holding my back and knees because I've got knee pains, back pains. Because of what? Old age? No, it's because you're comparing. You say, oh, I used to. Now, I can't. I used to be able to lift up all these great weights, right, and help other people. Now I can't lift anything up because I've got a bad back. Because of what? Because I'm old now. Again, because of this state of comparing, we compare. We are telling the story that, oh, I was here for X, Y amount of years. I was here for Y amount of years. And that's all based on the floor of what? Floor of what? Jati. See, this is only a fire. This is only a tsunami when you realize, when you think that what? Oh, I was here for so many years. Oh, look, my hair is becoming white. My skin is becoming wrinkly. Oh, I'm starting to forget. Is this dementia? Is this Alzheimer's? What's happening? Oh, I'm becoming old now. The feeling of age is what? Just a what? Just a feeling. A feeling based on what? Based on the foundation of what? Jati. When you get rid of jati, the tsunami of age goes. However, the tsunami of age will go. You will no longer hear the roar, but the effects will still be there. So don't worry, once jati is gone, it doesn't mean your back will become healed again. Right? Or you'll be able to lift 100,000 kilos. Right? The effects of jati will get rid of the roar of the tsunami. But the effects will still be at play. What about sickness? So do arahats not become sick? Do someone who no longer has the foundation of jati, do they no longer become sick? They do, but the tsunami is gone. The tsunami is gone. What does that mean? It means they'll become so-called sick, but they're no longer worried about the sickness. You see this a lot, especially with the younger audience. When you're sick and you have, say, a fever and a cold, and the doctor tells you, stay in bed and rest. How easy is it just to stay in bed? I was in bed for 15 hours, like outside. I remember there was a time where I think I was sick and at home, And the doctors had said, stay in bed. But every single time I can hear downstairs, right, my sister had the TV on, right? So what do? If I can't watch TV, no one can watch TV. So I'll go down and take the remote and take out the plugs and go back to bed. Because why? If I can't watch it, no one can watch it. Just think about it. How hard is it to stay in one place? To stay in one place because you're told to. I remember, I think there was a person who had a disease, a bacteria actually, a bacterial infection. And the cure back in their time was to go into a place that is dry and far away from society and stay in bed as still as possible. Family can't come and visit, because why? If they come and visit, you'll become excited, and if you're excited, your body's not going to heal according to their ways of methods of curing this illness. You can't. And also they'll be spreading this bacteria, and also you can't do things like reading a book, because when you start reading books, you'll become excited. So you can't read a book. So all you can do is sit there in this bed and just stare out this window. So I remember reading a small note that one of these patients had written. And it says, for the last couple years, I've been in this bed looking outside this window. I wish these mountains would move a bit. Why? Because they're there and they're bored. So even though we're sick, right, we feel, because there are two types of sickness. And this is talking about the physical sicknesses here, right? There is physically physical sick and mentally physical sick. What's the difference? Physically physical sick is what? Having a temperature, maybe becoming sick, headaches, whatnot. Mentally physically sick, what's the difference? Oh, I have a temperature, therefore I can't do anything. Oh, I have a headache, therefore I can't do anything. Or I can only do these sort of things. I have a stomach ache and therefore I can't eat these sort of foods. Again, this is not trying to override doctors at all. This is saying, listen to your doctors, because they know what is good for you. But if you are mentally physically sick, because technically we are all mentally sick, because of the foundation of jati. But when you talk about mentally physical sick, this is what creates the environment for the body to also become more sick. Because what we have to remember, our body and mind are interconnected. Like the great example that I can't remember, I think it's the Buddha or someone else had used, is that it's like two stacks of hay leaning on each other, the body and the mind. If the mind also feels sick, the body will become sick. And the body becoming sick will also make the mind feel sick. That's usually why, if we talked about, if we change the topic completely and we start talking about, say, going to the toilet, right? Needing to go to the toilet. If I keep saying go to the toilet, in your mind you're thinking, in the mind, soon enough you'll feel, I need to go to the toilet. Because why? By hearing this, you are starting to think, do I? Do I need to? And the smallest of signals from the body and you think, yes, I do need to. Because why? The body and mind are interconnected. So even things like sickness or the mentally, physically sick will go. Because if you don't feel that you are sick, if you don't feel that this self is sick, and if you feel that, the body or the causes have come together to give rise to an effect, which we call this, we call this headache. Now the tsunami of sickness is no longer there. Sickness will still happen. The body will come with different symptoms, right? Because it always does. But you will never feel that I am sick. And last but not least, death. Death is also something that will happen to an arahant. Will happen to every single person that is so-called alive. But death is something that can only happen when I feel that what is going to happen, when I die, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to who? To me? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my teachers? Once they die, what's going to happen to me? Because what do? We think about existing at this moment, and then you think about the future and you think, when I pass away, what's going to happen? So again, an arahant will, in a very conventional sense, will die. But in the real sense, or in reality, causes will come together, or causes will no longer come together. Therefore, the effect will not manifest. Is that death? Conventionally, we call it death. But for the arahant, what? Death is no longer a tsunami. And without a foundation, can you build a building? You see, what we have to do, right, is, yes, we have to remind ourselves that old age, sickness, and death are things that's going to happen. Yes, we have to remind ourselves, because this is what gives us the so-called the motivation to remind ourselves that our time is limited and therefore we have to use the maximum that we can. But again, this shouldn't be something that gives fire. That shouldn't be something that we're constantly scared about. What happens if I die? What happens? Will I die today? Will I die tomorrow? Will I have this heart attack today? Will I have it tomorrow? It's not something that we should be scared about, but it should be something that gives us the motivation. Because if we know that we still are on the journey, we know what? We need time. But death shouldn't be something that scares us. And it's also because we have this feeling that we have to be in control. Because what does jati make us feel? Jati makes us feel that number one, this is self. Jati makes us feel that there's a self. And then what does it make you feel? That this self is in control. That I can control the outcome. That's why if I asked you, say, to pick up this pen, you can say, well, if I wanted to, I can pick it up. If I don't want to, I don't need to pick it up. That it's my choice. Now, this feeling that this is my choice comes from what? This feeling that it's all my choice. I can choose whether to pick this pen up. I can choose not. I can choose to go to. I can choose to go to the Buddhist shrine and chant the Buddha Guna, or I can choose not to. I can choose whether I'm going to go to the Valley Malua or not. I can choose. This feeling that I am in control, I can control that. That's a feeling of who? Of what? That's the feeling that jati creates. Because in reality, who is in control? Now, something very interesting is, and it's an example that I think I've given to all of you, but it's a example that we need to, that really is really interesting. And that is, right, I think I told you this last week as well. If a tree was to fall down in the middle of a forest, will it make a sound? And remember the fact that no one's there to hear it. So let's make it more relatable, right? In the Amazon rainforest, right, all the way in South America, sorry. A tree falls down. When no one is there to hear it. When the tree falls down, does it make a noise? Okay. A tree falls down, and Mr. Smith is in the forest, right? So he can hear. When the tree falls down, will it make a noise? Yes, right? Right? Because Mr. Smith is there, and he can hear when the tree falls, he can hear the sound, right? Right? Exactly. So I thought. That's how it works. When the tree falls, Mr. Smith, right? He can hear the sound, right? And therefore, the tree makes a sound. Because Mr. Smith is there, the tree makes a sound. Is that so? Because this is very interesting, because if you don't really understand the concept of the sound is something that's perceived, when the tree falls, you automatically have the feeling that when the tree falls, whether I'm there or not, there should be a sound. But when you realize that, okay, you need to have a mind for there to be a sound, now because Mr. Smith is there, and Mr. Smith has a mind, right, we're assuming here, now when the tree falls, you think now a sound is there. Why? Because there's a mind that can hear the sound. Well, this is really interesting. Because if I made a sound, are we all hearing the same sound? So if we say there are, say, 30 of us in this room, right? Are we hearing one sound? Or is there 30 sounds? Just one, right? Because I'm not tapping 30 times. If I tap, now that's 30 sounds. But how is 30 sounds? Because a sound isn't something that comes from here. Sound comes from what? What is a sound? A sound is something that's perceived. So when a tree falls down and Mr. Smith is there, it doesn't still make a sound until this ear comes into contact with it. Now a mind arises. Because, okay, let's take this example and change the example. Mr. Smith is there, the tree falls, right? Mr. Smith is there, the tree falls. However, Mr. Smith is deaf. Now is there a sound? See, we're assuming that his hearing is perfect. Did I tell you that his hearing was perfect when I gave the example? No, we assume, because why? We think that this is what? This is, if a tree falls, he will be able to hear a sound. Again, if I show you this pen, we are all seeing the same pen, right? Wait, so you're telling me you're not seeing this? So you're not seeing the pen that I'm seeing? Is that what you're saying, telling me? That you're not seeing the pen that I'm seeing? Can everyone see a pen? Can everyone see a pen? So you can't see a pen. What do I have in my hand? What do I have in my hand? Can you not see? This is blue, right? Dark blue. Can everyone see dark blue here? Right. Huh? So what color is this? It's white. Can you not see this? This is a whiteboard pen, right? It's got a white body and a dark blue clip, right? See, clip, dark blue, right? And it's got a red badge and it says whiteboard marker on it. A red logo. Can you not see this? Can you not see this? So you're telling me you can't see this? Do we need to bring an optician to check your eyes to see if you need glasses? Because you can't see this? Just like the sound. When I make that sound, there are 30 sounds perceived. With this pen, 30 pens are perceived. So, are you seeing what I'm seeing? It's really good. The paradox of colors is very strange. Because we've lived with our eyes for how many years, we automatically think that we all see the same thing. That we're all perceiving the same thing. But we don't. Because I think, right, due to my ignorance, I think this dark blue is what you will see. However, if I asked you, is this dark blue? You would all agree and you'll say, yeah, I can see dark blue. You'll perceive it, but is it dark blue? Is it dark blue? Are both of our dark blues the same? Left I have blue, right I have red. Now, my blue and my red is not the same as your blue and your red. But we perceive it to be so. Alright, we'll call this person A and person B. We show person A and B this pen. They'll both call it a blue pen. However, let's say person A can actually just see this. this color. But person B can see this color. So when I show this, technically, person A should say that I see a blue pen, and person B should say I'm seeing a what pen? A red pen. However, since we all look at this pen and someone has told us, right? So person C has told us this is blue. This is blue. Have you not seen little children, right? Especially toddlers. They get mixed up between blue and green. Have you not experienced that? You show them this and you ask them, what color is this? They say it's green. You say, no, Buddha, this is not green. This is blue. What color is this? Green. No. Blue. What are you doing? Person C is doing what? Telling them from their, using their memory, this is trying to put their memory, this is what? Blue. So for them, what color is this? Blue. Now if I show this one, now both of them will say red, but are they seeing the same color? Because then you can say, if we're not seeing the same color, how if I asked you to pick up a red pen? When I ask you to pick up a red pen, how do we all pick up the same red color? We're not picking up the same red color. We're picking up from we have identified this to be red. Because red isn't a color. Red is the name we put, the label that we put onto the color. Just like, right? In Sinhala, this is what? Nil. And this is Ratu. Those are just what? Labels. And when say A can only understand English and B can only understand Sinhala, if we say this is nil, A will be, and say A would say nil. Nil must mean blue. And if we said blue, B will think, if he's talking about pen equals blue, or pen equals nil. That's why, to learn a language, the easiest way is to have someone talk in that language very simply. So we see this all around our monastery. So now, because our monastery, we're learning different languages, you see this a lot. You see a person coming and talking to another monk saying, I have blue pen. I can write with blue pen. I also have a red pen. Now, what is that doing? That's just changing the label that we put it. And so someone who doesn't understand English would realize and say, blue pen. Blue pen has to be something to do with this. So whenever they hear blue pen, they remember this. When they say, I am writing, they see the action and they think, writing means to write. Again, it's a label that we put. So again, color is a label. So are we seeing the same pen? No, we're seeing 30 different versions of the same pen. Are we seeing 30 different versions of the same pen? No, we're just seeing what? Pen. But we really feel that, that we are all seeing the same thing. We are all hearing the same thing. But okay, then now the other question arises, and that is, well, we talk about, this Suddhashtaka, right? This pure octant, right? This Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Prativi, that are outside, right? And they have to be the same for everyone, right? Right? That there is something here that we both perceive, right? So it's a very interesting thought. Apo, Tejo, Vayu, this pure octant, right? Or these four elements, do they make a shape like this? So if I was to make this clearer, outside your perceptions, do the four elements make a shape like this? Do you understand the question? So, outside our field of perception, so outside of our eyes, before we perceive, is there these four elements? Have they made an arrangement like this, in this shape? Yes or no? No. Oh, actually, we don't know. Because when we think about shape, we can see and we can feel, and we say what I feel and what I feel and what I see are the same. So the pure octants have to be arranged in this sort of way. However, the air is also made from the pure, this four elements. And so when I hold something, why can't I feel the air? Or they say, everyone has an aura. Can we see the aura? Can we feel the aura? I can tell you I can't. Don't know about you. I can't see auras or feel auras, but they have to be made from this four elements. Right? So do people look like this? Or do people look like that? People meaning outside our field of perception, outside of our eyes. Or what do they look like? We have no clue. No idea. Because air itself is also made from these four elements, right? That's why if the wind is blowing really hard, you can feel something on your hand. Because why? These elements. So again, when we talk about elements, honestly, we really shouldn't care about the elements because we've never seen it. Never seen it, smelt it, tasted it, touched it, or perceived it in any sort of way. Because why? What do we perceive? Our mental perception. So whether the elements look like this or whether they look like this, it doesn't matter because we don't need to find the cause and effect nature of this. Actually, if you think about this, the only reason we talk about the four elements is because of what? Or because of who? Because the Buddha has said there are four elements. If the Buddha didn't say that, do we know about the four elements? Can we ever know about the four elements? Because no matter how much we research, no matter how much we use science to find, we use science to find the answers and try to find the smallest of the smallest. We can only perceive that using what? Using what? Our senses. For example, the only reason that we know there is something called Wi-Fi is because of what? Can anyone see Wi-Fi? We only know Wi-Fi exists because when we turn on the phone and we turn on Wi-Fi, something pops up. And the only reason we know it pops up is because it comes into our world using our perception. Who knows, maybe there is no Wi-Fi, maybe it's just like a random thing in the phone that makes a name pop up. But we use that to identify and we say, oh, there's Wi-Fi here. Again, when we talk about the four elements, these are things Or these are, we can't talk about them. We can't talk about them. The only thing we can say about them is they are needed for the manifestating, or for the mind to arise. There needs to be causes. What are the causes? Outside our perception? We don't know. Because lots of people have this question, well, then what do they look like? What sort of shape? Because I remember when we started talking about, the four elements, I used to think, like, when Guru Han starts talking about, there's no such thing, there's like color is also perception. I used to think of a room that is whitewashed, completely just white, right? White, and in my head, it's like, it's almost in my head, it used to be a room where it was just painted white. Everything was painted white. And therefore, because it still has a 3D image, you can see the shape because of the shadows. But shadows are also what? Perceptions of color. So, do they have shadows? It's not that it's whitewashed. We can't talk about anything outside of our eyes. It is amazing that what we see and when we feel it, they almost connect. Do they connect? So when I hold this pen, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, they are the same, right? Right? So, for example, we can say that this board is, give or take, 2 feet. Anyone see this to be 5 foot long? 2 feet? Yeah. Agreed? The only way we can say that is because of what? Perception. So we feel in the external world, outside of our eyes, there is something that is 2 foot long. Right? There's something that's 2 foot long, and therefore we use that and we say, okay, this is what's outside, and and therefore that's what we perceive. But in reality, is there something that's 2 foot long here? We don't know. This could be 6 foot, but when we see it and when we use our hands and we say, that's around 2 foot. That's because of what? Our perception. So do we need to find out if the 4 elements are anicca, are cause and effect? Do we need to know if the 4 elements are cause and effect? Have the nature of anicca? Do we need to know that? No. Because why? It's not in our world. So do we need to practice anicca for this pen? Do we need to practice anicca for the pen? Yes, because this is what? Your world. This pen is what? Your world. Because I'm not talking about something that's outside. For example, over here I have an elephant, right? Can you see it? You cannot see it. It's massive, right? It's got a big trunk, right? But it's a special elephant, right? It's not a gray elephant. It's a white elephant. The one holding the lotus flower that goes around Queen Mahamaya 3 times. That's the exact same elephant. Can you not see it? Right? It's a good friend of mine. So should we practice anicca for the elephant? The elephant's made from causes. There's different causes that come together to give this manifestation of an elephant. No, because we don't perceive it. This, we do perceive. Because when we talk about this pen, we're talking about what? A mental perception. What you are seeing is what? A perception. I remember when we start learning about the perception, you come to realize well, I am just seeing what. So what you see, these things that you see, you're not seeing the outside. What are you seeing? This is the mind. This is the mind. What you are seeing is what? The mind. I used to think the mind was something, right? And things used to come to the mind. So the eye will give rise to sight, and this is what the eyes see, right? What you are seeing right now, that's what the eyes are seeing, and they send signals they send something to the mind, and the mind will see pen. No, what you are seeing is the mind. What you are hearing is what? The mind. Smelling, tasting, touch, that is the mind. But beyond that, we think. Normally we think we are 5 senses, right? What we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. These are outside the mind. But what we think, that is the mind. But no, these are all part of the mental perception. These are all minds. The seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, and thinking mind. These are all the mind. So you live in what? You live in the mind. Now, don't get me wrong, right? This doesn't mean we're living in the matrix or plugged into machines, right? Living in our own computer simulation. No, what I'm saying is, what you perceive is in the mind. Not what you think. Not just what you think. I like red. That is not just the mind. You perceiving red, you seeing this red pen, that is also the mind. Now, coming back to this idea of control. It is really funny to see when you come to realize that you are just an effect of your environment. It's very interesting. Because what we see, what we think to be real, and this is what is right and this is what is wrong, when you realize that these are just perceptions that we have, it changes the way you think. For example, I want to talk about a disease that we've had since, I think the oldest, it's a disease, an actual disease caused by a bacteria. Not the disease of Jati, but disease that's actually caused by a bacteria. It has been there for so many years. I think, like, even in the Hebrew Bible, they've talked about this disease, right? And it's been there since forever, killing millions of people. I think in 2020, many millions of people have been infected. And this is not COVID we're talking about. It's more contagious than COVID. But so it's called tuberculosis, heard of it? TB, right? And it's really interesting to see how our perception of right and wrong, good and bad, and our perception itself change. So back in the history, before we had microscopes and before we had this idea of viruses and bacteria and microorganisms, we used to think that things happened because of different forces. So, for example, to give you some background information, TB is one of the slowest, or it's very contagious, but very slow. And I think they say 1 in 4 people are infected by it, but it's only active in only like 2 or 3% of it, right? And when you're infected, you can get medicine now and cure it, so it's not bad. But back then, random people will pop up, and they'll be sick and be deadly sick, and they'll die from it. Now, they used to think that this was caused by devils and demons. So if you have this disease, you are controlled by the devil. So what do? If they thought anyone was sick, they'll go and they'll throw them outside. They'll be outcast. Because of what? Because they thought that they are being controlled by the devil. And as time went on, when it came to the 18th century is, I think, like the Victoria era in the UK and throughout the world. It's very interesting because many, so it used to be thought to be a devil's sickness. Then it came to the 18th century, people used to think, people who were poets, who were really rich, actors, actresses, royal, the rich, and also the poor, but mostly the rich, they would get sick. So what do you think people started to say then? Those who are very creative, those who are different from the others, who are better than others, they get this disease. And I think back then they called it consumption, the way it consumes the body. They used to get disease. So if you have the disease, you used to be thought to be superior. People thought that you become more beautiful, you become more like angelic, like an angel. And so people aspired to become sick. To the point that even today, we are still affected by it. I'll give you some symptoms of TB, right? And you tell me if you still see this in society. Number 1, they are very thin. Right? Because the way the infection works, they become really thin. They become very pale. Right? Their eyes, their eyes become so-called bigger. They get rosy cheeks. They get red lips. What does this sound like? Isn't this not the same thing that today people look for fashion? Is it not? Don't people aspire to be thin? Aspire to have red lips and red cheeks? Now, their eyes seem to be sunken, meaning their eyes are really big and almost they feel to be sunken, and therefore their eyelids used to be darker. I wonder, does that not remind you of something? No. See, beauty standards was changed, right, to a point that people used to put a poisonous berry on their eyelid to make their eyes dilate. Because it used to be romanticized, people wanted to get it. Every single person, in this era, thought that this was a very good disease. You were thought to become more rich, more powerful, more creative, and so they aspired to be like this disease. And So, like, especially in the Victorian era, then people started wearing corsets to make themselves look thinner. For what? Because of what? To be like the people who have the disease. And not only that, when you wear the corset, you find it hard to breathe. Hard to breathe. Faintish. Same as the TB patients. So, what we today think to be our, what is beautiful, what is right, what is wrong, is built on what society thinks. So when you see a person that you perceive to be beautiful, that maybe because that's symptoms of TB. And as time went on, like people started to they start to realize that, and this used to be called, it's called the white man's plague, because they thought only the rich, powerful, right, and people with white skin used to get the plague. And so when other countries that weren't with the same race, right, literally there were doctors that would say that, like, this is a disease for the superior race. So again, this is something that they've used to separate races. And so when people from other races used to get sick, no, it's only for the better people. Until I think the early 19th century, when I think a person called Dr. Robert Nock, if I remember correctly, this is when microscopes were found, right? And he found that TB was caused by what? A bacteria. Now what? Now it was a bad thing. Now people wanted to get rid of it. No. We don't want TB. Go away. And so they wanted to. So now, instead of them being romanticized, and come back to the romanticization of it, they used to think that, in many stories, and especially like in the princess merchandise of things, how they portray people to be really fragile and faintish, right? That's also because of TB. Anyway, so as time went on, when they realized that it was a bacteria, they wanted to get rid of it. Now, if I was to ask you, what would be your perfect retirement, right? Back when you're working, what would have been your perfect retirement, right? How would you have imagined you retiring? Usually, it will be, especially like in foreign countries, it is going into the outdoors, right? Far away from a town, right? In a really warm climate. These were ideas that came from TV, because they realized it's because people were so close together that these bacteria were spreading. So if we were further apart in warm environments where we just rested all day long, we'll be okay. So even our ideas of, of relaxation comes from a disease. And then soon, and then like Industrial Revolution happens. And when that happens, we have crowded workspaces, dust, germs, and whatnot. And TB was on a rise. And then therefore we had a phase where people started to become clean. Showering with soap. Because people back then, they didn't have soap. Showering with soap. And men, after they didn't want these germs to be on their beards and mustaches. And then we had a period of time where men were cleanly shaven. Due to what? TB. And then, most interesting, They realize it's a germ, and germs can be picked up from the floor. Right? Back then, females would wear really long skirts, or really long dresses, that used to sweep against the floor. Then they realized what? That this can also give us this germ. So, hemline rose. They became shorter. And because now shoes were seen, shoes became a massive industry. Thanks to what? A disease. So why did hemline rise? Why did the hemline, the bottom of the dress, why did that go up? Because people didn't want to get sick. And because they can now see shoes, now shoes became a big thing. Thanks to what? A disease. And so so when we start realizing about bacteria and diseases, it started to reduce in really rich countries. And then in poorer countries, well, it was still there. Now, instead of seeing it to be an amazing thing that we all have to have, it became something to see that it was something that only uncivilized people will have. Again, keeping a separateness of rich and poor, good and bad. So the ideologies that we hold to be beautiful, to be relaxing, to be good and bad and right and wrong are all according to the society. So the way you hold yourself is according to what the environment that you were brought up. But yet you think, no, I want to be thin. Because why? That's because that's what I want. But it came from what? TB. I want to be, I want to have a really fair complexion. Where does that come from? Society. However you write, however you read, however you walk, talk, speak, the way you do whatever you do, it's all due to the causes around you. So if I asked you, then who are you? If I asked you, who are you? Am I a person who likes to have long hair or short hair? Am I a person who likes to do this or likes to do that? Am I someone who walks like this or walks like that? I am a result, or not I, but that is a result of what? This is a result of what? My environment. So can we come and pinpoint and say, well, inside me there is something, right? There's something inside me that can control that is that has its own ideas, own views, own thoughts. Or is it all to do with the environment? It's all to do with the environment. But we come to think, no, this is me. I am this. See, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see, okay, if this is me, what is this? If this is me, what is this? So, coming back to what we're talking about, even with the sound, you think that the sound that I'm hearing is the same sound that everyone else hears. Thanks to what? Thanks to this feeling of what? Self. Because we don't realize that Sound itself is cause and effect. That sound itself needs to have the causes to have the effect. Then instead, no, we're all hearing the same thing. We're all seeing the same pen. Instead, we're seeing 30 different types or 30 different perceptions. Now, one more thing. You all remember Mr. Smith? Who is Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith is the one in the forest. Right? Mr. Smith. We see Mr. Smith. What do we automatically think? So, for example, when I told you that the tree fell down and Mr. Smith was there, we automatically think that what? Mr. Smith must have heard it. Why do we think that? Because we automatically think that if a person or if something has a head, arms, legs, and eyes, nose, mouth, ears, that this must have what? This must have what? A mind. That's why, normally when children, when they draw pictures, in the corner, what do they have? In the corner, what do they have? Normally, whenever a child draws a picture in the corner, what do they have? They have a sun. And what does a sun always have? Whenever you see an eyes, nose, mouth, or you don't need nose, if you have seen an eye and a mouth, what do you think? That this has what? This has a mind. This can feel. Because we automatically say that this must be another person. That this must be another person. That's why if you and Mr. Smith were seeing the same thing, if you and Mr. Smith were seeing the same thing, you automatically think that this is seeing the same this. You and Mrs. Smith are seeing the same object. However, how do you know that he is seeing? How do you know that he is seeing? How do you know, right? How do you know that I have a mind? How do you know that I have a mind? I might be from the year 2300, right? 2300, right? And they found a way to time travel and they sent back a robot who has weird drawings, right? And smiley smiling suns. How do you know that I have a mind? How do you know? Do you? You assume. Because why? I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, and I can touch. And of course I can think. But in your world, they are all what? Perceptions. Here's something really funny to think about, right? If Mr. Smith was a robot, and we have, say, this is Mrs. Cook. If these are both robots, if Mr. Smith falls down, will this robot be embarrassed? Okay. There's no one else in this room. You fall down. Are you embarrassed? There's no one else in this room. You fall down, right? I don't know, you tripped over your own foot and you fell down. Are you embarrassed? But if you're in this room and you fall down and there's someone else in the room, say for example, Guru Han was in the room. Now what do you feel? Did I don't know. Did they see it? Oh, okay. He's not looking. Thank God. Why do we feel that? Okay, let's change the scenario. You're in this room, and there's a microwave, right, on this table. You fall down. Are you embarrassed? The microwave is there though. I don't know, the microwave is I don't know, heating up something. It's working. But why aren't you embarrassed? Because you think what? This is a person, and they're probably thinking how clumsy I am. That I'm such a clumsy person. But how can you be a clumsy person? You can only think that if you think that this person's looking at you, this person is thinking what you are. I don't know if you do this, but I know I used to do this a lot. Is before I meet someone, I play the conversation in my head. No, never done that? So before you meet someone, so for example, you're going to meet you're going to meet Nayaka, you're going to meet Amadasana, right? And you want to tell him something. Or even better, he wants to talk to you, right? And you don't know what the reason is. So in your head, you're thinking about all the scenarios that can play out. Is he going to tell me off? Did he find out that I did this? Did he find out I did that? Or did maybe he wants to talk about this or want to talk about that? And you're playing it all in your head. And so you think, if he asks me this, I'm going to say this. If he asks me that, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. And you're playing this scenario because you think that this mind will think badly about you or will think something about you, and you don't want them to think like that. So you want them to think what? I am an amazing person who practices the path, who doesn't get angry, who doesn't feel desire, doesn't feel any ego, because I'm amazing. That's why when you become angry, you always have an excuse. When you become upset, you have an excuse. Like you become angry and then you say, I was angry because of this. And you try to justify why you were angry. And better so, you go and tell someone, wouldn't you be angry as well in my situation? Why to justify it? So you can say that, well, I was angry for a reason here. Not that anger was bad. Like last week, right? Anger is anti-Nibbana. So I don't get angry, but I got angry here because of this reason. I got angry here because of that reason. And we don't want our teachers to find out. Which is very contradicting, right? Don't you want your teachers to know your fault to help you? What happens if they find out that I did this? Then what would they think of me? Would they think of me to be a horrible person? Why? Because again, you're taking this mind and you're thinking, this mind will think like this. But how can the mind think like that when the mind can only arise according to the what? According to the causes. So the mind hears something and thought arises. How can that mind think that you are a horrible person? That you are a nasty person? Why would you do such a thing? See, all of this happens because you feel that, what? If this is you, you feel that I am a bad person. I don't want this person to feel bad, so to think that I'm bad. These are both symptoms of what? Both symptoms of what? Jati. Because this mind will arise and pass away. Is this mind and the next mind the same mind? So, I think a lot of people, they also have this idea as well, that there's a mind, and the mind, something in the mind arises and passes away. So, we have a brain. The brain is there, and signals go to and from the brain. So there's a brain that is fixed. We can also have the same interpretation with the mind. The mind is something, but the mind will arise and pass away. But there's always a mind. So if I asked you, is two minds the same? Is this mind and next mind the same? A lot of people will say, well, they're not the same, but they're connected. Meaning that they're part of the same thing? Is it part of, are two different chittas are they part of the same mind? No, both of these are discrete, meaning that they arise due to the causes there and then. This one and that one aren't connected, but their environment is the same. That's like saying we are all breathing in this room, right? Are we the same? We are all breathing in the same room. We are almost in the same environment. Are we all the same? No, the mind will arise differently due to the causes. So are they connected? See, each mind is discrete, but you think that, okay, this mind will think that I'm a bad person and will forever think I'm a bad person. Because we love to label. We enjoy labeling. That's why we will label, number one, ourselves. We do something bad. What do we label ourselves to be? Bad. We do something to feed our ego. What do we think? Oh, I've got a big ego. And because of these labels, do we feel really inferior to others? So if you labeled yourself to be someone who gets really upset for very small things, get really upset, normally what you look for is someone like that. Someone who has a similar tendency to become upset. Why? So you can make yourself feel better. Because it's not just me. They also do the same thing. That's why they say birds of a feather flock together. You always look for people who have the same, they place the same label. That's why you'll always see, how often do you think you'll see someone who is really, again, in inverted commas, someone who is really rich and successful, be with someone who has a tendency to steal? Would you see them come together? Would you see them being good friends? No, because they give each other different labels. They label themselves to be X, Y, and Z, and they label the other person to be A, B, C. But if the labels were similar, now what? So we label ourselves. When we do something bad, we label it. And we don't want other people to find out. We don't want our teachers to find out. Because we don't want them to think badly of us, right? But which is so contradictory. Because why? You want your teachers to know the faults in you. You want your teachers to find out that, oh, they still get angry. Do you want your teachers to find out that, they still feel desire? It's a good thing. Why? So I can help them. But if you box yourself off and you think, no, I am not someone who gets sad, I'm not someone who gets angry, I'm not someone who feels desire, then the next thing we have to do is we have to take our prayer mats and put it in front of you and worship. Because why? You're a what? An arahant. That's because we think, what is the other person going to think? What are they going to think about me? See, their mind arises due to the causes now. The next mind will arise to the causes next. So they see you be angry. The mind arises. The mind passes away. But you label yourself as, they saw me being angry. Now they think that I'm someone who gets angry with, someone who sees me to someone who sees me to be someone who gets angry. Like I remember this really, you really do feel this. You really do feel this. You always think about what's the other person going to think about me. Even when you do something meritorious. You are cleaning the dhamma hall, right? And you see some dirt on the floor. Sometimes you think, if I don't clean this, what are other people going to think about me? She doesn't do her job properly. She half-heartedly does it. Or they don't do it, she doesn't focus on the floor, or X, Y, and Z. Because you may think that, okay, what are other people going to think? Maybe the best thing here is to sweep this. Yes, by sweeping you do merits. But no, you are boxing yourself. Trying to make other people think good of you. Because you care about what others think. You see, what we have to understand is, who is the other person who's going to judge you? Who is the other person who's going to label you? Who? No one can judge you. No one can label you. Except yourself. Except yourself. No one else can judge you. No one else can give you a label except yourself. You are the one who labels yourself. Because why? Who's on the other end? Who's on the other end? Where is Mr. Smith? Where is Mr. Smith? In your mind. He's your perception. So can Mr. Smith give you a label? It reminds me of a story. Did I tell you the story of the sheep thief? No. It reminds me of a story because it's a very interesting story. Because yes, it's a very, it's a conventional story, meaning it's not about the 3D world. But you can really understand the 3D world using this. So, long ago, there used to be two brothers. Right? Two brothers. And these two brothers, growing up, they lived in the Highlands of Scotland. And they grew up to become kleptomaniacs. So therefore, they like stealing. So as they grow older, they started small. Like they started to take small things. But when they got to, middle age, they decided to, they want to take something really big. And they wanted to steal a sheep. And funny enough, back in their time, stealing livestock was punishable by death. Right? So these two brothers, they went, they looked, they found a house which looked deserted. They climbed over the fence, took one of the sheep over their shoulders, and as they jumped out, the owner was there, just coming along and sees this, and they were caught red-handed. So they're sent to the head of the village, and the head of the village was and told them that stealing livestock is punishable by death. However, because this is your first time, right, stealing, we won't give you the death punishment, the death penalty. Instead, we will brand you. And if you don't know what branding is, I think even nowadays, you get a metal stencil, you heat it up and you mark animals like this. So they did the same thing. So they were chained to the floor, and the executioner took an iron stencil, heated it up, and put it on their forehead. And they had the letters ST branded on their forehead. So after the wound healed, the scar is permanent, right? Everyone who sees their face, the first thing they see is what? ST. And so everyone knows that they're what? Sheep thieves. ST, sheep thief. And so the older brother was really embarrassed, right? Extremely embarrassed. And he knew that he couldn't do anything about this. And so he decided to run away. He packed whatever he could and he started running. He ran from town to town, village to village. Every time he tried to settle in a village, people asked him about the ST on his forehead, and he will wave it off. But gossip travels far, right? Eventually they do find out that he's a sheep thief, and they banish him. And so he goes from town to town, village to village, city to city. Eventually he found nowhere to settle, and he dies on the run. The younger brother decides that he doesn't want to run. He wants to change. So instead of going around trying to run away, what he does is he tries to help. So he goes to knock on people's doors and ask if there's anything he can do for them. At first, people were very scared, because why? He's a criminal. We don't want a criminal to be helping around the house. But eventually, he got one person to help, then another person. Eventually, he was even, after several years actually, he was given even livestock to look after. So he used to steal sheep, but now he's given sheep to look after. And the village started to change their view on this sheep thief, this brother, the younger brother. One day, someone who's new to the village comes to the village to stay, and they see a really old man, right, with the word ST on his forehead, walking around with little children and other people surrounding him. And he's confused why he has ST on the forehead, goes inside a shop and asks the shopkeeper, "Excuse me, shopkeeper, I saw a person outside who has the letters ST on his forehead. Like, who is he? And why does he have ST on his forehead?" The shopkeeper says, "Honestly, I don't know. I can't remember why he has ST on the forehead, but we just call him Saint. We just call him Saint." Now, you see, a label isn't something that other people place. A label is something that we place to ourselves. If we constantly think that we are who we are, this is who I am, we are stuck in this so-called zone. And this is something that we can't break out of. Because remember, there is no Mr. Smith here. Mr. Smith can't think anything of you. only you can perceive and you can think that Mr. Smith thinks I'm a terrible person. Or I'm a good person. So no one can actually label you. So should we again take this with a pinch of salt, because this is the ultimate truth here. Should we care if someone gives us if we feel that someone gives us a label? Should we care? Because there is no one but yourself. There is no one but yourself to give you a label. Because if you think about this, Mrs. Smith says, that you're stupid. It comes to you because of what? You perceive it because of what? Because Mrs. Smith said it, right? Right? Mrs. Smith said that you're stupid, therefore you perceive it. Right? Is it because of Mrs. Smith? Then causes come together, and don't forget, this is also what? This is what? Who's Vipaka? So, if this is your Vipaka, and you perceived it, then does Mr. Smith think you're stupid? Or do you think you're stupid? So so if someone wants to shout at you, or someone wants to say something bad about you, or if someone wants to praise you, who's shouting, who's praising? You to yourself. Now, I do want to talk about this in a more extended detail some other time, because this is very interesting. Because if you really realize this, now you start to realize that no one else can affect you but yourself. And now you're no longer dependent on other people's praise or other people's good words for your happiness. Neither are you upset by theirs. So, I do really want to talk about this some other time, so in a more expanded version, because it's very, very generalized. But we'll talk more about this later. And I'm aware of the time as well. So, and I was supposed to give everyone a message as well. Not next week, but the week afterwards. On the 9th of November, we have what? What do we have? We have the Khatna ceremony. And I was told to give to send the invitation, not to all of you, right? Because you anyway will be coming, right? There's no question about that. But to our online viewers, those of you who can. So, we're giving you this in 2 weeks in advance, so you can, pencil it into your schedules, and so you can come in. But our Sita Shravikas, Uvasis, Anagarikas, monks were all in any way going to be there, so there's no question about that. But this is an invitation to all of our online viewers, because the Khatna is a very special time. I think this is one of the only times that you can stay overnight at the monastery, which is amazing. And also, it's a very meritorious time where all our monks and everyone comes together to chant the words of the Buddha, spreading their blessings across. And as far as I know, there will be a small sermon given by Guru Handru and also by Naik Handru in Sinhala and in English. So for our English viewers. And I think also the event will be compared in English and Sinhala as well. So for everyone basically. So please do come, right? If you can. of course, with your busy schedules and timetables. But do remember, it's merits. Because it really doesn't matter how much money or how much possessions you have. Because in the end, the only thing you can take with you is what? The merits. Because remember, you only have how many more years left? 27? 27 years left. That's if. If it's 40, it's 27. For others, it's more or less. And that's, again, assuming we all die at 80. Oh, minus the 5 years of being bedridden, that's 25. Right. Not 25, that's 22. 22 years. So, again, in this 22 years, do you want to collect, or do you want to build your sandcastle to have it washed away by the sea? Or do you want to accumulate merit and blessings so you no longer need a sandcastle to build? So please do come, and please bring your family, friends, relatives to come and witness such an amazing meritorious event. I'm aware of the time. So, again. So remember, right? Remember the tsunamis. Right? If you're quiet enough, you'll hear them. If you're quiet enough, you'll hear the tsunamis. And like we started, one day these chairs will be empty. All of these chairs will be empty. But especially these chairs. Let's not wait for that moment. Use what you have. Use the time that you have to get the maximum done. Okay. Then let's take a few moments to transfer our merits and conclude for today. Let's take a moment to transfer what the merits we required by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirth, listen Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Buddhist teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's chant for the Master Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasakas, who since time immemorial protect and preserve the sublime teaching of the Buddha and pass it down to a generation of noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dhamma. Let's also take a moment to transfer our merits to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all chief prelates of those chapters who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget, among them will be the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Sananse, as well as other monks resident at the monastery, as well as Anagarikas and Nagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits in special gratitude to those who make great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be there by translating the sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May the power of the merits, if any have been born in the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So I'll take one chance for merits that we will acquire to our devotees, friends of the monastery, for sake of merits. Continues to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, those who provide the Mahasangha shelter, alms, and medicines, as well as those who pass on their know-how and their well wishes. May the power of these merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill them in no way forth path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer our merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any shape or form. By the power of these merits, may they be healed in physical and mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds. Fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble foot path, and attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. His also taking moment transfer merits the Devas, Brahmins, spirits, demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the sum of the Sasana. Also taking moment transfer merits to our god and deities who keep watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power of these merits be made possible in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble footpath, and attain supreme blessing Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also taking moment transfer our merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all those been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. Resulting moment transfer merits to all that have helped us, supported us, assisted us in shape or form. Resulting moment transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as a police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those lost life in the war be the friend of foe. Rejoice in the merits required today. Resulting moment transfer merits to all those lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslide, pandemics, reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in the long journey in samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to them. May through the power of all the merits required throughout the day, may they abstain, may they not be born in the may through all the power, may with the power of all the merits required today, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme blessing Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through all the power of the merits required throughout the day, we may witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arhat nuances, Arhat main nuances in this blessed land itself. And finally, may through all the power of all the merits required throughout the day, you and I, and everyone who made this program a success, become a Arhat nuance or a Arhat main nuance in this very life in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of Noble Gem be with you all. The Mahasangha will now transfer the blessings to you. Raga ginen midetva, dvesha ginen midetva, moha ginen midetva, Nibbana parama sukhayin sukita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukita taravetva. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukita taravetva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sapa labeva, nivan sapa labeva. Nivan sapa labeva. Tunronge, Susyananta Mahagunabharan, Siloka Sila Satyam, Nibbana from a Sugin Suftareta, Sadhu.